Hello everyone. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm really blessed to have this opportunity here today. Really thankful for it. And I'd also like to express that I'm extremely nervous, and if you see me shaking, sweating, or stuttering, it's fine, I'm just fine. But I couldn't miss this great opportunity. But actually it wasn't until half a year ago when I would start getting blessed with all these chances, and half a year ago, it's only when I started getting all these great, amazing opportunities coming my way and starting to do what I wanted to do. It was a long path before that. And today I'd actually like to share with you how that path went and one crucial, extremely crucial thing that I've learned through this journey that really I think helped me get here today and give it this. But before I share this journey with you, I'd like you all to imagine yourself in a room surrounded by your dreams and ambitions, metaphorically speaking. They're just all there, you can see all of them, and just a few steps separate you from achieving them. But what if all of a sudden, the lights in the room go off? What happens? Nothing, you just can't see them. It doesn't mean that they're gone. It just means that now that the lights are off, you're scared to make your steps towards it because you're scared that you're going to trip and hurt yourself. So what is the logic conclusion out of this? What is the logic action that you should do? What is the step that you should take? Well, actually, illuminate the room. So you'd probably go and find the light switch. It sounds simple, and I actually think it is simple like that in life. But this kind of idea or this kind of knowledge is not something that I knew all my life. Actually, it's something that I've learned at a crucial turning point in my life. Before that, I was always an ambitious child. I always had my dreams, had my goals. I knew what I wanted from life. And I did work hard towards these things, but not hard enough. I hope that one day I'm going to achieve all of the goals, but if I were not to achieve them, it would be okay. Because as horrible as it sounds, I knew that I had someone to fall back onto, which was my mother, who financially supported me. So if I were not to succeed, or if I were to try something and fail at it, that would be fine, because I always had someone to support me. So when I came to Hong Kong at the age of 17, thanks by the way for calling it a courageous move, but when you have a mother supporting you, like when you have someone supporting you, it's not really that much of a courageous move. Many people do it. But when I moved here at the age of 17 and I got into the university, it was because they didn't really, some of you might have heard, but they didn't really speak English in classes, they mostly spoke Cantonese, which obviously I couldn't study anything. But that didn't bother me because I knew that I had another option, which is to do something else that I like, which is socializing. Since I was in a different place, with totally different people, different culture, I was like, I'm going to go out and make some friends, which was totally nothing about studying. Or I went and I found friends, I socialized with them, I went out drinking, I went shopping, I love shopping. And I also traveled as well. I went to amazing places like Philippines, Singapore, and once I even booked a ticket to go to Taiwan for 3 days for a concert. An 18-year-old boy gets to get a ticket to go to Taiwan just to see a concert. It was a great life, really. Without studying, just doing what I really wanted. But to be honest, that trip was very different from any other trip that I've ever had before. When I got on the plane, and we were about to take off, I suddenly got a phone call from my grandmother. And she told me something that I never in my life expected that I would hear. And that was that my mother has gotten into jail. And all of a sudden I just felt all the blood that I've had in my body rush into my brain. And together with that blood were many, many thoughts. All of them are horrible. None of them positive. It felt like I couldn't breathe anymore. And right after I heard these news, without having an ability to ask her, what, why, where, I was told to switch off our phones and prepare for a pleasant flight, which I obviously didn't have, because the rest of the time in the air I spent panicking, one-on-one with myself, thinking, what's going to happen to me now? Imagine your life going from 100 to 0 in seconds. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what's going to happen to me. I didn't know what I'm going to do. How am I going to survive? Where do I go from here? And I actually spent the whole first day in Taiwan walking around like a complete zombie, not understanding what's happening. Luckily, by day 2, I calmed down a bit, and I now realized that I had to make a decision. I had 2 options in front of me. Option number 1 was to go back home, which was Cyprus. Why was it a good option? Is because I could start working as a waiter immediately, or find some other job that didn't require qualification. Also, I had a visa there, so I was able to legally work there. Also, I had my grandmother's food, which was by itself already a very good reason to go back there. But if I were to go back to Cyprus, I wouldn't be able to pursue any of the dreams that I've had, because Cyprus is a place for young children and to elderly people to retire. It's not the kind of place where you build your dreams. And my option number 2 was to stay in Hong Kong, a place of which at that time I didn't know much, and a place where I didn't know the language, didn't know much of the culture, I didn't have any friends, I barely knew anyone. But for some reason I had a feeling like there is something for me to achieve here. And also I felt like I loved that place. But it was a really risky choice because everyone knows, everyone pays rent here. No matter how much you earn, almost all of that money is going to go for rent. And you have to eat as well, and there's just so many complications. And even if I were to stay here, I didn't have any, I didn't know exactly what I'm going to do with my life. As most of you might know, that living as a foreigner in Hong Kong is very hard, because no matter what kind of job you want to find, there always needs a qualification. And as you understood from me telling you earlier, of me partying with friends, I probably didn't have any of these qualifications. By day 3, something happened that has totally changed the way that I look at life, totally changed the way that I approached any trouble that was thrown at me after that. At day 3, I suddenly realized that what was happening to me was not a curse. It was not a disaster. My life wasn't about to crash apart. I wasn't about to lose everything. Actually, what was happening to me was an opportunity to finally start being independent, an opportunity to finally start trying something, an opportunity to show that I can achieve whatever I set to do. Also, now that I didn't have anyone to fall back onto, I couldn't afford to fall. So I had to stand still, and I had to now fight for whatever it is I wanted to achieve. And that kind of thinking, in seconds, turned me from being depressed, down, and terrified into being extremely excited for what is about to come my way. To be extremely excited to learn from all the troubles that are coming, because I knew there's many that are going to come my way. And I was so ready to fight with them. I was so ready to see how am I going to handle it and what's going to be the outcome. And so with that thought, the decision was very clear. The decision was to go back to Hong Kong and try to succeed here. When I came to Hong Kong, I grabbed onto the first thing, which was modeling. It was quite easy at that time. And it provided me with a short stay in Hong Kong. Also provided me with a sufficient amount to continue living here. I could afford rent, a bit of food. You have to stay still. But so that was quite a good choice, but it wasn't something that I wanted to do for a long time. It was also not something that I really enjoyed doing, and so I knew that from here on I had to move on. Before, I have heard that every good product needed investment, and me being my own product, I needed an investment. And having learned already a bit of Cantonese and having so much passion to it, I saw that there is a niche in Hong Kong, or there is no niche for it, for that kind of job. And so I thought, what if I took whatever I have earned from modeling and invested it into learning Cantonese? And so I did so. I bought a 1-year package of group lessons for Cantonese. By the way, I paid for a group package, but because no one else was studying Cantonese, so I turned out having private lessons, which is a great deal. But so I set off to a journey of learning Cantonese for a year, which was the hardest year in my life. And no, it wasn't hard because I was learning Cantonese and it's a hard language, not because of that. But because I haven't realized that if I were to learn Cantonese, if I were to study in Hong Kong, I wouldn't be able to earn money. And if I weren't able to work, that means I was just spending whatever I have earned before. And pretty soon I started running out of food, actually. And for quite a long time, I couldn't even afford to buy anything like potato chips or anything. I could only afford to buy rice. I know it sounds crazy, but and sometimes I wouldn't eat for a day. Sometimes I would only eat a bowl of rice in a day. I didn't have any friends either, because having friends would mean that you'd have to go out on the streets and socialize. And going out on the streets for me at that time was a nightmare, because that meant you need to spend money, which I didn't have already. I only had rice, you know. So that was already. So I didn't socialize at all. So I spent all of my time at home watching Cantonese movies, because that would improve my language. I would go out only if I would have to go for a lesson. It got to a point where I had to start selling things in order to transfer myself from home to the class. So I started selling CDs, which cost 20 Hong Kong dollars. That would afford me 3 tickets to the lesson, which was great. I had quite a few CDs. So as you can guess, I was able to finish my course. But to some it might seem like terrible, like a nightmare, but at that time, I was really enjoying it. Sounds like I was torturing myself, but I was really enjoying it. Because I hope that after I'm done with this course, there is going to be opportunities coming my way that otherwise would not be able to be given to me. And actually, that was true. After some time of learning Cantonese, I have received an email that made me jump so high. It was an email asking me to be a host for a children's program on TV, Cantonese. At that point, I felt like I was right, and the life was finally fixing. And that all these challenges really teach me something. I thought that after I'm going to be able to be a host on TV, life is going to change so drastically that I'm going to finally be happy again and have my family. That didn't happen immediately, by the way. I still have to wait quite a long time for that to happen. But still, the point remains. Today, I am here giving the speech. And after all, everything I wished for, almost everything I wished for came true, and there's still a long way to go. But none of that would be possible without that little mindset, a mindset of facing your challenge and face forward, and being excited about dealing with them, and wanting to, and making sure that these trouble in your eyes are not trouble, that they inspire you to make more. And so, after today's speech, I would like to wish you all one wish that without this speech would sound very strange, but I would wish for all of you to have more trouble. Because from what I've learned, trouble is what makes us stronger, and trouble is what makes us who we are. And teaches us many things that not many people get to experience. And remember that kaleidoscope doesn't work if you point it in the dark. Thank you.